Today we're talking about live music, and to me it seemed like a kind of a apropos topic, considering the state of society and things like that. So I thought it'd be nice to have these two gentlemen on. And I use gentlemen loosely. I mean, you get it.
Yes, yeah. Use the term loosely.
Two guys.
These are musicians after all.
I've got these rapscallions.
Yes, thank you. Dennis Speak over there, Brett Klein over here. Two, I mean, you guys are two of my heroes in the music industry. So thank you for being here. New Braunfels.
Thank you, brother.
New Braunfels has quite a history of music. We were founded in 1845, and pretty early on, singing societies became a thing. And I'm going to mess it up, but Helgar can correct me as usual. It's called the Germania Gesangverein. Was the singing group here in New Braunfels. And actually, in 1853, they invited singing groups from other cities like Austin and wherever, San Antonio maybe, and had a festival here. Our first ever Singer Fest was in 1853 in New Braunfels, and it was a bunch of people got together and sang.
Love it.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
There were up to 10 different singing groups in New Braunfels early on. And so as time progressed, they bring a fiddle in, and then we had full music, like 1880s is what I
You
was
gotta have a
learning.
fiddle in the band.
That's what
They're going to play Texas.
That's how the song goes.
So it's kind of neat to think about our history of music, as being a pretty cool. As time went on, we all get it, I'm going to say it, that these concert halls and dance halls became kind of a center of social life. Somewhere you meet up with your friends, and there'd be some music, there may or may not be some beer, and you could just hang out with your friends.
Yep.
And so that's kind of a neat history we have that. And so I wanted you all to hear some of our history to find out, we're good at this by now.
Been doing it a long time.
Just a few years of music here. So I wanted to ask you guys, starting out, some of the historical venues. We know, everybody knows about Green Hall, but what else, has been around in our town on the historical front?
So since I'm older than him,
Yeah.
I'll take that one.
Just
So
for Dennis.
in my youth, playing in town, there were a lot of dance halls around. There were the Heidelberg Hall out on 35, which did a lot of German music and country.
The Heidelberg Hall.
The Heidelberg
So
Hall.
give us a then and now about the Heidelberg Hall.
So that place is the same building where Wood Cycle Center is now.
Okay,
Right on 35.
Okay.
And they did dance hall bands, all kinds of swing music, country. There was even rock out there. All kinds of cover bands. It was a great place. And then Western Palms Ballroom was south on 35, where United Rentals is now. That building used to be kind of a hangout more for rock bands and blues bands back in the day. And then there was the old Ice House on Yon Street was there for a very long time, and a lot of local bands played there. Clay Blaker used to live here, wrote songs for George Strait. He used to play there. He used to play Green Hall as well.
The old Ice House was an actual ice house.
It was a real ice
And
house
it's
at one time.
Conway's now.
Yeah, yes, I believe
Okay.
it's Conway's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. So, and then there was a place, I think there's a place called the Fiddle and Cherokee in the building, actually where the car wash is next to Jack in the Box. And that was another kind of a local cover band place. And all those places were very popular. So, yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
And there, Crystal Chandelier.
Crystal Chandelier.
Everybody George Ray,
I used to go there with my grandparents and my parents. I was 14, 15 years old on Saturday night for dances. And there were a lot of local cover bands at the time, the Echoes, the Abbey, and they did, great old country stuff. And yeah.
You were dancing there at 14 and 15.
I was not dancing, but I was running around being a hoodlum and getting called out for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Spray paint stuff.
Yeah.
Or what were you
Eating
doing?
peanuts and drinking Dr. Pepper.
It's kind of neat. I mean, as we've grown as a town, the live music scene has stuck around. It's just kind of changed, to different locations. And by the way, Crystal Chandelier is where Rudy's was and Black's is now, just for the record, so everybody knows that. Talk about how, some of the venues are not there anymore, but some of them are, but we have new venues. So talk a little bit about, maybe this is a question for you, Brett, is, what's going on today? Like, what are some good venues and, what areas of town? How's the music scene going today?
Yeah, I feel like for certain, the downtown scene. The downtown scene when I was growing up, I remember was mostly antique shops, right?
Or clothes.
you know,
This was in the mid-90s when you were growing up?
yeah, or the 80s, I guess. Yeah. This was 2 summers ago before the beard came in. This was in the 90s, I guess. I was kind of middle school, high school, but you know, I remember going to the Braunfels. It was a $1 theater.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Backdraft at the Braunfels. You know, or you know, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I think. You know, so certainly the downtown music scene, I feel like, has really evolved. And we were just mentioning before we started Ron Snyder and his influence. You know,
Absolutely.
the late great Ron Snyder.
It reminds me of the old days in Austin on 6th Street, and
Yeah.
it's just beautiful.
Certainly what it's become now is, you know,
Amazing.
it's the Braunfels, you know, changing into this amazing venue, this incredible live music venue. You know,
Absolutely.
Dennis, you know, we've been there a few times, you know, and it's incredible, you know. Got to throw that to Dale Martin, Carl Nawadi.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I can see Cheryl right there. Hey, Cheryl, what's up? That's awesome. I still got to come by and see y'all.
So you talked about downtown.
Oh yeah, you know,
It
Krause
was kind of boarded up and has come up. I mean,
Oh,
talk
man.
about how prolific.
you know, that in my lifetime. I remember, you know, I feel like for a lot of years I played at, you know, when Don and Jeannie Edwards had, now it's Sidecar Ride Muck and Fuss. That was the Uptown Piano Bar. And it was Wolfgang's before that. But for a lot of my years, I played at the Uptown Piano Bar, you know, which was on the other side of downtown. I think like at the time, what did Callahan's had some live music, right? Was the Phoenix going yet? I don't remember.
Probably not just yet.
So there really wasn't a lot going on down there, to my recollection. You know, I feel like we were playing at the Prickly Pear at the Holiday Inn a lot. We were heading over by 35. You know,
Yes, we did.
and
I forget what that place.
oh man, it's funny. That place probably isn't big on anyone's radar. Like when you say, "Oh, old music in New Braunfels," oh, you know, the Prickly Pear at the
Oh, we
Holiday
did
Inn.
some amazing
But
stuff.
for me, that place has huge historical significance. You know? That's where I saw Monty Tyler
Yeah.
the first time,
Yeah.
and eventually got into his band, and we played there a lot. That venue was a special place in my heart for that. But certainly now, you know, we got Krause's is a big one, and the Poorhouse, you know, the Phoenix Saloon, yeah, for sure. We got a lot of venues. You drive down there on any weekend night now, right? You know, it's hard to find a place to park sometimes because there's so much action going on down there. That's great. That's great.
Still have amazing mainstays like Green Hall and its history, and you know, just did a show there last night with the Wallflowers. I mean, this is an
That's
international touring band. The son of Bob Dylan plays New Braunfels at Green
Well,
Hall.
I was asking you yesterday about, you know, when is Chris Isaac coming back?
Yeah,
I mean, to
hopefully
have
soon.
that dude coming through Green Hall is pretty. I mean, just
Oh, it's
think of the
been
names who've been there.
Amazing. What wasn't Garth Brooks, right?
Yeah.
Last week. It's
And then,
crazy.
you know, having a huge amphitheater come into town, you know, Whitewater. If you told me that was going to happen 20 years ago, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, I remember when this first happened, and you're going,
We've
"What?"
got an amazing music scene happening right now, and I think it's going to continue to expand and grow. I think.
Yeah,
What we talked a little bit earlier about compare and contrast us to other nearby locations and cities, and as far as where would a musician rather play, what's the significance of being the live music capital of something? You know, where do we fit into that puzzle of places that musicians like and that are prolific in the music front and get good acts?
Let me see.
I would just say that, you know, it reminds me right now here a lot of old Austin in the old days, and they were the live music capital of the world, and I really feel like we're doing more right now than I'm seeing happening there. I'm not digging on Austin, but I'm just saying we're doing a fine job of it now, and there's so many different genres of music here. Musicians have moved here. We got guys that, you know, the Red Dirt guys that came out of like Cody, Canada, and you know they've all moved down here and they're living here and calling it home here. That's amazing.
Yeah.
They didn't go to Austin.
What makes a live music capital? And what makes a city? I mean, we just got this designation at Green Hall last year
Right.
of a music city,
music friendly.
music-friendly city.
Yeah.
What
That's
makes
cool.
that? What makes that?
I find that whole thing kind of funny. This titles, like,
Right,
you know, I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it's usually self-proclaimed, like, we are the live
Yeah.
music capital.
I think just having so many different musicians move here that it creates a community, and you start to get, you know, bands forming out of other bands, little side
That's
projects,
this guy right here.
like this guy.
That's
for instance,
one
who plays
thing.
with everyone.
I was gonna say, coming up, I was under this impression when I was younger that you get in a band and you play in a band and everyone you have your one project. I didn't
Same.
realize kind of the older I've gotten and the more musicians I've met and the more people I perform with, you find out that really everybody plays kind of with everybody. Everybody's that's a working musician has multiple kinds of projects that they work in, and I feel like that kind of ties into the later question about working as a musician and making a living as a musician. I think is getting your hands in that much stuff. But I know in my experience, something that's changed in the last maybe decade or less or more is the kind of music in town. Because we've got some new styles showing up. You probably saw less of when I certainly when I was coming up. Now we got there's soul sessions and there's jazz. I see a lot of jazz bands playing around town. And big props to Sidecar and to Krause's and there's some other venues, Guadalupe Brewery places.
We have street musicians now here. That never happened before. It's a guy playing sax on the sidewalk, and throw some change in his little case there. That wasn't happening not even 10 years ago.
Oh yes. That was. I remember being down here, and I at that time for a little while I had a melodica, which a melodica is basically it's like an accordion and a harmonica had a baby, and it's a tiny little keyboard. And it doesn't do anything on its own, but you blow air through it and it kind of sounds like a harmonica. Interesting little instrument. But for a while there, I would play my gigs downtown. And then I would get out and I would kind of go, I just loved how the music scene downtown was so vibrant. I had a friend probably playing in every other bar downtown that night, So I would just kind of bar hop with my melodica, go see my friends, jump in and jam a little bit. But I'll never forget the night. This must have been 8 years ago or something, 9. My kiddo was like 1. But I remember walking out and hearing a saxophone, like echoing off the buildings, and I was like, "What?" And I looked down there. It's Randy, is his name. That night I looked down there. I said, "We've got a guy busking out here. That officially made it when you got the guy blowing sax under the light down."
You're kind of a cool city at that point.
So yeah.
Why do musicians move here? I mean, thinking about some of these names, and then is it a product growth that we can have all these bands playing. You can play all these different bands and make a living at it, but how does it all gel together?
I feel like I can go a little bit over this. For a while, I moved to Austin for about 12 years from like 2000, in the early 2000s, because I was working at the Four Seasons playing this lobby gig and just good money. So I kind of moved up there to be doing that gig regularly. But part of the reason I think coming back, besides getting my son into the school here, which I in New Braunfels, was more venues, more bands, more gigs popping up around town, but also the pay in New Braunfels was starting to get better. Like in general, venues around town, I feel like starting to pay musicians a little more, or a little more what they're worth to be playing, And so, and also, man, here's another big thing, for me is the size of New Braunfels and the density of venues that are doing it down here. I loved how on a Sunday I could go play at First Protestant Church. I could head out of there. I could drive up the road. I could do 4 shows in one day, and I get home and my odometer's got like 3 miles on it. And I sat in traffic for about 5 minutes.
So kind of like Austin.
In Austin, it's like you can't do 2 gigs in Austin because I might be in traffic for 3 hours. Getting out here, parking. There's a lot of to me things in Austin that made it hard. Parking, loading for a gig downtown. That just got really difficult. Eventually, you started getting harassed by people like move your cars or I remember one of my first gigs in Austin, and I feel like a police officer helped us load in. But if you get flash forward 15 years and they're like, you come out with all your stuff and there's a ticket on the car, like there goes all the night's pay. So I feel like there's a lot of things here that became. And I even got friends that came from Austin to play in bands with us here in New Braunfels, and between the pay, the venues, the people. There's just a lot of reasons I know that friends of mine,
a lot of music lovers here,
friends of mine that play have said, wow, I'd really love to get down to New Braunfels and move closer. I got a lot of friends that have, relocated from Austin to maybe San Marcos or because they just want to be working here a little more.
Yeah,
so I think it's great.
There's a lot of factors to New Braunfels, even beyond music, just coming to visit. On the music front, though, what's kind of driven that explosion of music? I've been since '02, and there was music.
Yeah.
But now we have music. That's a big thing.
Oh yeah.
Someone asked here, the music-friendly community, that's a big deal, and it changes things and it puts us on a different stage. It's like that fun. But what's driven the growth of the music scene here?
So part of it certainly just the fact that now the population's growing, and I think that people want to get out and do stuff, and that drives the venues to bring in more bands, that drives the musicians to come here. I think it's just all kind of a kumbaya thing.
It's all these elements, right? The population.
Yeah.
So many more people that are going out,
Right.
social. I think there's more of an influx of people that are interested in that nightlife.
Yeah.
I imagine now that we've hit a point where the vibe downtown is enough to even draw people for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, wow, man, that's got a great little downtown scene of live music. It's pretty close to where I'm living.
Yeah.
And the very different types of music. I know that people
Excluding
here
COVID,
are passionate. The people that follow bands, I know are very supportive and very about going out and seeing.
And let me ask you that: do you feel, having played lots of places, both of you have, do you feel that New Braunfels is more, even less supportive, of a musician? Do you feel that people are like, man, we want to support this industry here more than other places, or is it kind of a thing?
Feeling that more now than ever.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a process. I don't think it was always that way.
Yeah.
But it's much better now, for sure.
I don't know if there's any active comparison on anyone's mind, but how they might treat us here as opposed to somewhere else.
Yeah,
but I feel like there is a definite change in
There's a lot.
even like in the attentiveness. Of course not every night, but there are nights where I played many nights down in the cellar over there where I call those sometimes a wallpaper gig.
Yeah.
Where people are talking, they're having their drinks, and the ambiance.
Yeah.
But it feels like kind of more and more, you find people being very attentive to the music and being reactive, which is.
When I moved here, I moved here from Austin, and there was KGSR there.
Right.
And that was like a genre of music, having gone to school up in Oklahoma. I'm a Texan, but I went to school in Oklahoma. Moving down to Austin from there, whoa.
Yeah.
This is music I've never heard, and I love it. And, then we have a radio station here, coming here, KMBT was playing this music that was cool. I loved it.
Fabulous, right?
I don't know when Matson started the Americana deal, when
I
that started
don't remember
happening.
exactly what year, but I know that I was already at Green Hall, doing sound, and that helped turn a lot of things too. That's another big reason that those guys moved here, like Lee Bowen and people like that, is that that radio station played a genre of music that wasn't mainstream, and those guys were great musicians, great songwriters, and they needed to have their stuff heard. Matson recognized that and sort of created a market for them, and a huge help he was. Most of the acts that come through Green Hall are all acts that Matson's playing on the radio station.
Right.
So yeah, it's beautiful.
Was that radio station kind of a groundbreaker leader? In that whole?
Yes, he was. And I again, don't quote me, but I think he's won several awards and stuff over the years for that very reason.
You kind of have to step out a little bit, I would think, to start playing some music that's in the
Yeah,
genre.
because the Americana scene was very small
Mhm.
and has grown exponentially over time, and he was right at the forefront of that.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's talk about both career musicians. We've established that. What's that life like?
Yeah.
I'm not doing COVID yet. We'll talk about that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are two vastly different stories, aren't they?
Pre-2020,
Yes.
BC,
Yeah.
before COVID. Talk about what that's like
Gosh, I know.
in relation to New Braunfels, being around here.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I know. Gosh, for me, it was really strange. I really fell into it. That first job was playing piano when I was 15. I was like, great, I'm not sacking groceries. I'm playing some piano. Maybe I can make some money doing this. And it was just following that. I feel like the life for me, I was, just like I said, 15 when I started. So I came to adulthood, came into learning the laws of society, taxes, adult responsibilities, mortgages, all these things. Those came over the years.
All that silly
But I
stuff.
did learn as a working musician that the way that I was able to kind of navigate that stuff was just working a lot. It was playing 6-7 gigs a week, sometimes 2 gigs a day. It was just it's just a lot of playing. But I think it's weird, because you love music, you love to play.
It's a labor of love for sure.
It totally is. It's one of those things they say. There's that thing: if you love what you do, you never work a day. But there's that thing. It's not really
That's
true. If you
not
love what
exactly
you do,
true,
your brain never stops thinking about it. So which can be a big help. So I know for me that life was enjoyable. I played a whole lot. have played a whole lot of gigs, you know, and slept in a whole lot during the day, get up and go play gigs in the evening. So it was really that, having venues like, you know, Wolfgang's and then the Piano Bar. And I know for me, you know, even when I went to Austin, that the whole idea for me was residencies. You know, if you're a working musician,
McAdoo's.
you know, McAdoo, Myron's, you know, these venues that allowed me to do that for a time, you know, is that was kind of the secret, I think. Because honestly, to be totally honest, I really didn't know any other musicians that just did music.
No.
Like every other musician I knew was kind of like, even that's kind of like another thing for those first 15 years when you're coming up, people come see you play and they're like, that's really great. So like, what's your day job?
Yeah.
You know? So what do you do like for real?
Yeah, I still get that doing sound too. You can make a living at this.
Yeah, you
More
know.
coffee, guys.
Oh, thank you, brother.
This is, by the way, from Two Rivers Coffee. Our
Shout out
sponsor.
to Two Rivers.
Thanks, Two
Yeah,
Rivers.
it's delicious.
It's delicious coffee.
Cheers.
It is delicious.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw you, Brett, was it the Wolfgang Cellar? I think was the first.
Oh
time,
yeah.
I believe, and I thought, man, this guy.
Cheers.
Oh yeah. That's. So I feel like it really was just keeping very busy. You know, I know like what that looks like for me now. These days is teaching, becoming an educator. So if you're able to do that, teaching and playing shows, I feel like with these two things, you're able to
Raising the next generation.
maintain a, you know, pass that music torch on, right? People love it.
Talk about your experience, Dennis. I mean, did you form your band here with Tommy and all them?
Yeah. So we had a little success back in the 80s and 90s, and had a couple videos on MTV. And
I wish we could roll that clip.
No,
I watched that.
let's don't roll that clip. And you know, we played regionally, and then you know, bought a music store here and started doing sound. And then Green Hall called one day and said, "Can you guys do sound there?" Yes, we can. Hung up the phone and told Carl, "Can you do sound there?" We don't really have the stuff to do that. We're going to make it work.
Yeah.
We did. So
Wow.
27 years later.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of started, you know, it's taken a lot of the place of my ability to play music as much as I would like. But it was a choice I made, and it's an important role, and I still enjoy doing it. I still get to play some.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
so I'm still making a living in the business, and not everybody can say that. So
Oh yeah.
happy I am.
That's awesome, man. I did not know that about Green Hall. That's many good things have come my way from where someone calls you and says, "Hey, can you do this?" And there's that voice in the back of your head.
Always, yeah.
There's a voice in the back. He's like, "No, and you're just like, "Shh, sure, why not? Let's do it."
Yeah.
And then you know, now it's
Figure
grown
it out.
into the Braunfels, and we're just love that
Oh.
venue as well. The place is just wonderful. And
Yeah.
Cheryl,
You can make a living in music in New Braunfels.
You
And I
can.
think that's an important thing
that's an important thing.
that you prove.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
speaking of making a living, let's move to 2020. You know,
Yeah.
That was a bumpy ride.
Green Hall was
COVID.
not doing much. I'm
Yeah.
sure Braunfels was not doing much. What were you guys doing? How'd you get by?
Worrying.
Worried?
Last year, wow, man, it's hard to understate how profound that really was last year. I know everybody really went through it last year, you know, but
I almost had to get a real job.
for me personally, I had, you know, wow, you know, so it's very surreal. I, you know, spent the bulk of more of my life than not building this kind of music thing, right? I think at the time I had 35 students and was playing, you know, all over the place, keeping busy. Yeah. And it really got well enough that I was being the sole provider for my family, going, wow, with this music thing, I'm able to take care of the kiddo and, you know, the stuff. Well, then when COVID hit, it was like, yank, you know, we all know that rug. It practically overnight, you know, it was probably, it was like March 3rd and then it was like March 4th. Every gig on the calendar was canceled, you know, and every student couldn't come over. So it really went from the very top, this train, this rocket, just poised to take off to ground, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there was shock, you know, initially, and then it was just, I feel like what makes good musicians and what makes musicians make it is that kind of just resourcefulness. You kind of like when you guys picked up the Green Hall thing, it's like, well, we can pull this stuff together. We can make this thing work. And then look at what it turned into, right? I know for me, it quickly became social media. Thankfully, we had this tool of the internet and social media. So it became like how to understand very quickly how to do a live stream or a live show, set up a Venmo and start. And so for me, it was really preparing and doing live shows. I very quickly had to learn production
Yes, you did.
live streaming, all the elements of cameras, sound, and then there was putting the shows together, learning the songs, and performing. And it was also that strange thing of performing in front of a camera where I never really thought about how much energy we depend on.
Supposed to be this.
There's a synergy with a crowd as a performing musician that propels you song to song. So when you play, you probably experience this where you have a kind of a flat crowd maybe, and even if your band gives it everything, and people are just like, not really. You kind of lose. I feel like I've used the Back to the Future reference a lot, where Marty's kind of disappearing at the end, and then his parents kiss. It's like, oh, I've got brings you back. That's very much that. Yeah. When you get that, it really does do something that's hard to describe. That we then turn and feedback. So
we're missing that.
Learning to do these 3-hour sets where you really just dump it out, and then you finish, and it's just the quiet of your kind of room that you're in.
Yeah.
This is weird, And you kind of maybe look at your screen and you can see the little clap emojis on there.
Yes, that's something at least.
And so it was, but man, that got me through, and the generosity, the support of people that follow me on social media that tuned in for those shows.
Yeah, I want to ask Dennis the same question, but also then maybe Dennis, you can segue from that into, how does the community support music industry during a pandemic? But I want to hear how it was for you, that both of you can talk about, what we can do to help you out.
So for us, it was just nothing for a while. We wound up trying to come up with creative ways to keep ourselves afloat and still build the music scene here. So we did a lot of upgrades and stuff at the theater at Braunfels. That kept crawling on for a good while, and and just waited out and jump in as soon as they said go. We were back in, and then they yanked the rug out again.
Yeah.
And then we went back in again. So
how can we? And I'm sorry to rush you. I got 1 minute, but how can we help you guys out as a community to support the music industry in New Braunfels, good and bad times, but especially during hard times?
Get out there and go see bands and go support these wonderful venues, all of them, and buy tickets. Buy tickets. That's what.
Yeah, buy tickets for shows for sure. That's the thing. Also, tip when you can. It's always very helpful when you got a 7-piece band playing. A lot of these venues cannot afford to pay to where a 7-piece band gets a whole lot of money. So that's really helpful to help musicians continue to do what they do. With that, but very much that. And also, if we go into some shutdown or anything weird like that, when you see live streams or musicians playing online, I think sharing those streams. If you're on social media and you see somebody that's maybe performing, share that stream, with your people, or support in that way. I think is the best thing that the community can probably do to help musicians out. I think.
And there are organizations up in Austin, for instance, that are nonprofits that support musicians as well. So that's other options. But yeah,
that was one thing real quick. I love this. We're talking about this trajectory of music in New Braunfels, how we really are taking off and growing, and it's becoming a really beautiful thing on its own here. It's becoming, but I know that something that Austin's musicians in Austin enjoy is HAM, the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, which is set up. That's the thing where I guess I'm not exactly sure how that runs. That's probably something more for the insurance
people. It might be something that we can look at doing here.
If you're making the bulk of your living off of music, you are able to, through this foundation, get health insurance for yourself or your family, and that's a big thing that if you're going to be a professional musician and go full, currently I'm incredibly lucky because I found a wonderful wife, who has a job that gets our family health insurance, because other than that, last year that was another thing.
But if you're a guy that doesn't,
Ham has got fundraisers, and things like that. So something like that is, a way a community could support musicians.
That would be a game changer.
I got to wrap it up. So sorry, no time for questions. I promise you guys 30 minutes, we're a minute over. But go to musicinnewbraunfels.com. It's called musicinnewbraunfels.com. You have Dennis's blog on there. There's a music calendar on there, so you can find out when to go see Brett play. Also, I would say maybe like both these guys on Facebook and other types of media, so that you can support the industry. And like they said, go buy tickets. Go support them with Venmo when they do live shows online or wherever it happens to be. Do that because it's encouraging to me as a resident of this place that our city is exploding on the music industry
Yes, it
scene, and it's a blessing for us economically as well as just we have good quality of life. That is all we have. Thank you again for Troopers Coffee. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you.
take care. Have a great day, everybody.